Welcome to The Independent. I'm Pete Sampson, joined as always by my co-host Matt Fortuna, who's not in Chicago, actually in a much warmer place than the Midwest. And Matt, I'm having like flashbacks to coaching search time 4 years ago as we do two podcasts in about 48 hours. But this is a world we're living in right now. I'm just back from Pete Bevacqua's 30+ minute press conference. Talked to local media after doing a round of podcasts in the last few days. What did you think? You go.
I was under the impression there would be much more fireworks today than there were. I thought it ended up being essentially an end of season wrap press conference, which is fine. It was not advertised as such. It wasn't advertised publicly at all, other than Monday they say he's going to speak Tuesday. And considering he's had one press conference in 3 years of being the AD, the fact that he's calling a press conference on a day's notice, you're wondering, is he going to announce a Freeman extension? Is he going to announce we're suing the ACC? Is he going to announce this, that? And I was reading the tea leaves from people inside Notre Dame. It was like, get ready. Like, he's going to say a lot. And I don't know if he said anything different than what he said on his media tour yesterday. I think it was, they're upset. They're not ready to do anything about it yet. He's obviously very happy with Marcus Freeman and doing everything he can to keep him if the NFL were to call, which I'm sure they already are. But I mean, my takeaways were more, honestly, I think Notre Dame fan base, and it's hard to group everyone in together, especially a fan base as disparate as Notre Dame's, where I think you've got a lot of different constituencies, a lot of different parts. Like, honestly, like, I think the fan base is frustrated and angry. And this is just my personal opinion. If you're not going to take action, and I don't know what action you could take, what I would have done today, and I know it's not as simple as a snap of the fingers, but if I'm calling a press conference 2 days after getting snubbed from the playoff, and I've already made my thoughts on that clear, I would have gotten up there today and said, today we are announcing we're giving championship rings to the members of the 1993 football team, and we should celebrate them.
That, I thought you were going to say something else, but yeah, that actually would have been a nice move there. I knew there wasn't going to be an announcement of the Freeman extension. I'd done enough digging on that in advance I mean, look, that will happen. And Bevacqua did talk a little bit about that today. I think Marcus Freeman is to the point with Notre Dame where it's like, not that you have a lifetime contract, but it's just he's just going to have a rolling 6-year contract that adjusts annually. And he's going to making a hell of a lot more money by the end of it than he is right now. But I would think that would come in the next month or so, at the risk of putting a timeline on it. But Notre Dame is very motivated about that. Marcus Freeman's motivated about it. People support sort of representing Marcus Freeman are very motivated about that. I think it's like Bevacqua said a year ago, it's not that complicated to get a deal done when all parties want to get it done. So that deal is going to get done in short term. But I agree with you. It's like, and I didn't get to ask this explicitly about the ACC, but like, what recourse do you actually have? Like, what are you supposed to do about this? Other than just like kind of like I strenuously object. I mean, that's basically what happened with the ACC.
I'm perfectly fine with. Honestly, we get this. We'll get to this. The bowl opt-out is where I have an issue with how Notre Dame's handling this, but I'm fine with them being upset with the ACC. I'm fine with them expressing it the way they did. I just think today was built up into, okay, is it going to be Clemson, Florida State part 3 with a team suing the conference? And I'm not saying that won't eventually happen. I find it hard to believe the ACC in its current format will exist come 2030, but I don't, there was nothing today to say that. It was just like, yeah, we're still mad.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, and it's like you get a question of follow-up, so I didn't get to phrase this explicitly this way, but other people did ask about the ACC. Like, do you expect to be in the league in 2 years in the way that you are now, where it's 5 football games, 24 Olympic sports? My hunch is the answer is no. I don't think, when Pete Bevacqua said permanent damage, and then backpedaled a little bit today with time can heal, yada, yada, yada. Like, I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen here. You could argue that a series of tweets is not necessarily grounds for going nuclear, but that's where Notre Dame is right now. And I think
beyond that, though, and they didn't do a good job of conveying that publicly.
No,
and I can share more details of that, as I'm sure you can too. But it's beyond that. It's that obviously, but there's, and I wrote a story today on the Inside Zone. Please subscribe there, and please subscribe to read Pete's stories on The Athletic, where we have a lot of good stuff behind paywalls, but we love interacting with you guys for free as well. But I think it's more complicated. Everything about the social media campaign, et cetera, is true. From my understanding, the ACC was very sloppy with it. They accidentally CC'd Notre Dame on some of these conference-wide emails.
They did the old accidental reply all thing. Not good.
Exactly. That really rubbed Notre Dame folks the wrong way. I think the Stanford and Clemson series are a thorn in both sides.
Correct.
I think Notre Dame says those are independent of our ACC agreement. And the ACC is saying, like, no, like, you're going to play who we tell you to play. You can play them annually if you want. And Notre Dame's looking at it, and you could do the math on this. If USC were to stay on the schedule, you got 5 ACC games every year. You got Stanford every year, Clemson every year, Navy every year, USC every year. That leaves you with just 2 non-conference games, essentially, if you're Notre Dame. And that puts you in a bind. The ACC has not lived up to its end of the bargain from a football product, period. And I don't know who to blame for this, but I don't know if Dabo Swinney's going to turn around at Clemson. And Notre Dame picked a hell of a time to sign a 12-year deal with Clemson. I mean, it made a splash as far as like getting those 2 brands on the same field together.
When they were a
I
top
don't know
5
how good of a game
team.
it's going to be. So we'll see how that plays out. I realize these things are cyclical. Although Clemson in particular, I think, is like one bad hire away from never being heard from again. It's not Alabama as far as like the tradition and blue blood and history. So it's a little more complicated. And the other part of it, and this is not spoken aloud, but I do wonder, that's a conference with 4 athletic directors right now with Notre Dame degrees. Alan Green at Pittsburgh, Nina King at Duke, Boo Corrigan at NC State, Bubba Cunningham at North Carolina, and a commissioner, Jim Phillips, who basically learned the business while working at Notre Dame and whose son went to Notre Dame. I don't know how these people feel about Pete Bevacqua, a guy who has 0 college athletic experience and got the Notre Dame AD job that I'm sure at least one, if not all the 5 people I just mentioned would have gone very hard after. And you can't tell me whether it's in that room with ACC meetings or now in the committee room where there's 0 Notre Dame presence, that doesn't matter. These are human beings, especially in the committee room. I mean, I said this to you off air, but I remember the first year, the 2014, the first year they did a committee. Here were the members with Notre Dame ties. Barry Alvarez, former Notre Dame defensive coordinator. Pat Hayden, former Notre Dame analyst on NBC. Condoleezza Rice has a Notre Dame degree. Tyrone Willingham, former Notre Dame head coach. That's 4 members out of 13 who had strong Notre Dame ties. This year, Ivan Mizell. He wrote a book on Notre Dame. Does that count? He had a partial recusal. Like that, and he did. And these are human beings. The same way Bubba Cunningham could go up there last year and say, like, I didn't put my team, North Carolina, in as the last men's basketball team, despite me chairing the tournament. He's a human being. He leaves the room and they're all saying, well, we're going to have to face him eventually. It's going to be really hard to tell him we took his team out. Like, they need a stronger voice at the table right now nationally. And I'm not saying Pete is or isn't that, but he doesn't have the gravitas that Jack Swarbrick, who literally developed this college football playoff system, had in those rooms. And I think that puts Notre Dame in a bit of a tough spot right now. I think it makes them vulnerable to getting screwed over when it comes to whether it's a smear campaign from the ACC or the playoff leaving them out or whatever. And even, Ross Dellinger reported the clause that starting next year, they will be in no matter what if they're ranked as a top 12 team. And I think you accurately tweeted, like, that doesn't mean as much if the committee can just say, well, we're going to rank them 13 there. Like, I don't. And there are questions in here about, and we'll get to some of them, but there are questions in here about, is it notable that he mentioned Greg Sankey today as a commissioner he has been speaking to? And it's notable, yes, but I think it's
maybe for the reasons you'd like it to be.
Exactly. I do think the relationship is genuine. I think there's a reason, though. Well, I think a couple things. I don't think Notre Dame's joining anything anytime soon. I actually think the SEC might be a more realistic option if they were to than the Big Ten is, at least with the current people in charge of each conference. I think I know Greg Sankey is the most powerful person in college football right now. And he wields a very sharp knife. You know, like he is the definition of keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. And if you don't believe me, you can ask Bob Bowlesby, who, along with Jack Swarbrick and Craig Thompson, was on the 4-man committee with Greg Sankey that developed the 12-team playoff. This was during COVID, when they were pretty much the only people they saw outside of their own families. And what happened during that time? Greg Sankey took Texas, Oklahoma right from under Bob Bowlesby's nose and basically put a dagger into the Big 12 as we know it. And when he befriended Tony Petitti at the Big Ten publicly the last couple of years, I got a lot of be careful with this relationship. It's probably not as wholesome as a lot of you are making it out to be. And I think strategically, we've seen the SEC leave the Big Ten out to dry with some of its grand ideas for this sport. And the SEC has essentially taken a victory lap from a public relations standpoint. All of which is to say, I don't know what that Pete and Greg relationship means. He's a good guy to know. I would keep him quietly at arm's length if I'm Notre Dame or anyone else in a similar shoes.
I totally agree with you on that one. I feel like to be surprised that Greg Sankey ultimately was out to get you would be like being surprised that Lane Kiffin is looking at other jobs.
And I will add one more person told me this week. I said, are you surprised Notre Dame got left out? He said, I'm not surprised. The minute Mac Rhodes got fired and they put an SEC AD as the head of that committee, I thought the SEC is going to get the benefit of the doubt over Notre Dame no matter what. And sure enough, that happened with Alabama.
I've had more than one person express that sentiment to me from around Notre Dame. So I think there's probably something to that. I think from the news today, Bevacqua talked about, the contract extension, basically the lifetime deal, the ACC stuff, but also they opt out of the bowl. Like we didn't really have I think when we recorded our last podcast, we sort of speculated that Notre Dame might tell the ACC and the ESPN to go pound sand. In fact, that's what they did. I did ask Bevacqua, essentially does this opt-out mean that Notre Dame is out of the non-CFP bowl business? And he's like, good question, but no. This is the decision for this team this year, and I can take that at face value. I do wonder if, let's just say BYU and Alabama won on Saturday. So you were in, and then you went to Saturday night knowing you're out. Does Notre Dame play in the Pop-Tart Bowl? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I also don't think saying the opt-outs of Jeremiyah Love and Jadarian Price are as reason to not play the game holds a lot of water. Like people opt out of bowl games all the time and the team still plays.
Yes.
But I get I can appreciate the very cruel gut punch nature of this one. And I can appreciate the sort of incompatible schedule of bowl bid acceptance not working with where Notre Dame was at the time on Sunday. But I don't know if I said this on our Sunday podcast or not. I do wonder if a week from now Notre Dame's will be like, I wish we played.
I don't think a week from now, but I think eventually there are a lot of people who will. I mean, early on, and I don't mean to nitpick here, but and to be clear, I talked to a lot, as I'm sure you did, a lot of former players to get their opinions on this.
Yeah.
Initially, I was like, what are you doing? And I still feel the same way I did Sunday when this news broke about opting out of a bowl. I would say it's a pretty split 50-50 among the former players I talked to who either loved it or thought it was short-sighted. So,
yeah, definitely.
And again, there's not a wrong answer.
No.
This is my personal opinion. However, I don't like you getting up there talking about how this is a finite time in these 18 to 22-year-old kids' lives, and you're taking away their last opportunity to play football.
Well, they chose to take away the opportunity.
But you you get paid a lot of money to make decisions. You cannot leave this decision in the hands of 18 to 22-year-olds who are emotionally spent and pissed off. You got to take emotion out of it. I think you don't like the idea of we're going to have so many opt-outs and the bowl game's just going to turn into a mere footnote of this season. I think you're making this season a footnote by saying we didn't make the playoff. Screw everything else.
This is for how much people still talk about Jordan Travis and Florida State in 2023. This blows that out of the water, and it will for a very long time.
As far as what impacts me?
It's like we're going to be talking about Notre Dame 2025 for a long time.
But not because this was a memorable team. It's because
because of how it ended.
Right. I don't. The fan base needs something, I think, right now to rally behind. Saying that Marcus Freeman wants his team to do something fun this weekend is not it. There is not one mention of, hey, by the way, we have a Heisman finalist this weekend. Let's celebrate that.
Yep.
Or are you going to boycott that because it's on ESPN and he's not going to win? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just think it's all very, very short-sighted and emotional.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. But I also agree, like talking to players, I think I had more people tell me something to the effect of I would be more upset if they did play than if they didn't. And most of them acknowledged, look, the NIL realities of today,
Yes.
Empower players to say, screw you way more than they did 10
But
years
again,
ago.
like, who's not going
20
to
years
play
ago.
other than Jeremiyah and Jadarian Price? This is a young team.
Yeah, so it's my understanding is like they had potential opt-outs of players that might return. Like that
Like that's what
was
coaches
such
are
a
for.
mess.
Like, no, like you need to do this. Choose hard. You get 12
Yeah.
guaranteed
I'm with you.
opportunities. That was not a threat. That's reality. Now you have a 13th. Like,
Yeah.
let's go.
No,
and
I'm with you.
also, I don't like Pete Bevacqua getting up there saying Vanderbilt and Texas have strong arguments as well. Well, they managed to get up for a bowl game.
Yeah, and I don't quite follow Bavacqua's Vanderbilt could have been included, should have been.
Yeah, I don't think that
Texas,
was necessary
Miami,
at all. Especially Texas.
BYU, Notre Dame. Like there are only so many spots. And I get it. The process sucked. And like what Hunter Yurachek did over the course of I don't know how many ranking shows he was the figurehead for, was an abject disaster. However, somebody was going to finish 10-2 and get left out.
That's going to happen in 16 too.
Yeah,
maybe it'll be Notre Dame again. Like, I don't know. It could be anybody.
Yeah, and that was my other question for Bevacqua today. It was like, so what can you do internally to prevent this from happening again? And he was like, well, don't lose the first 2 games, which I think you wrote on the Inside Zone. Like and Notre Dame failed to do that. So it's like when you fail to do that, you're left at the whims of this, frankly, capricious committee that seems to be detached from logic more often than not. Like that's terrible. However, I don't know. I just don't feel like if you're Notre Dame, you should have been completely blindsided by what happened to you on Sunday. Like, I'm not saying you should have anticipated it. Well,
right, but like
predicted it, but you should have anticipated the possibility.
We both talked to people in that building who, when they saw the penultimate rankings, thought, this might not go the way we think it'll go. And again, I'm not putting myself in their shoes. Your dreams of winning a championship get crushed by 12 guys in a room. Like, that sucks. But the idea that like you could look around Saturday night, a lot of, say what you want about the media, but a lot of media people predicted they could be out. Like, I don't think it's the greatest surprise in the world. Again, to me, I think personally they should have been in over Alabama, but that's my opinion, which ultimately doesn't hold a whole lot of weight in this thing. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think there's a group of players on that team who 5-10 years from now are going to say, wait a minute, when's the last time I ever played a football game? Oh, that's right. And a game in Stanford, California, in front of dozens of people on a cold November night where the game ended at 2:08 Eastern time in front of nobody. Like, I'm not cool with that. Like, I'm old school maybe, and I'm out of touch and naive, but you're football players. You get paid to play football.
Yep.
I don't like it. And I know college football resembles the NFL more now, and in a lot of ways for the better. I do think Notre Dame, more than any other place, still tries to hold on to some semblance of the collegial aspect of college football. And I think saying we're taking our ball and going home because we're upset right now was a pretty weak move. And I think a lot of people will look back on it. And also, like, I'm not saying like the players in particular, I should not think this way, but you got to take the fans into consideration too. Like, they want to see this team play one more time together. That doesn't mean you cater into every single thing, but you talk about your worldwide brand and this and that, you'd sell out wherever you go. And look, my feelings are independent of like, screw the ACC, screw ESPN, screw the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Like, if you feel that way, fine. I don't begrudge you for feeling that. I just think, in the very simplest terms, I just don't get it. So I think you also unwittingly put a huge target on your back for next year. Like, loaded team, weak schedule. playoff or bust. Like, you want to live the way Ohio State does, that's fine. But it's not very pleasant. And you could talk to a lot of people in Columbus about how happy and fun they are, unless they're winning national championships.
I would argue next year would have been playoff or bust, even if Notre
It
Dame
would have, but I just
now.
think like you've just like you've done the whole like Michigan versus everybody, Notre Dame versus everybody thing.
Yeah.
Like you were bringing this on yourself.
Did you want to segue into an obvious shirts read right now?
Irish versus everybody. That'd be a good one.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's I'm surprised no one has done the angry LeBron with Marcus Freeman's face sort of digitally imposed on top of him, because that's kind of what I thought about as I'm sitting there.
I'd also like to see and hear him speak. And I understand Pete is taking cover for him, but you are the face of this program. How are you going to handle adversity?
Yeah, no, I mean,
know.
I think we know that's a story that I want to do for the offseason is like Marcus Freeman is a terrible loser is the headline. Because I know that he is a awful, awful loser. And that this is worse than a loss. This is like you felt like something was taken away from you. So how he processes this, I think will be fascinating, because it's it can be fuel. It can also burn your own house down.
Yeah, I think it will be fuel. I just think right now, like, I hate to say, I just think they've all been a little naive about this thing. Like, we've had 12 years of this committee not making sense. Yeah. And even today, I thought Pete could have shown more data other than saying we were on one of the most dominant 10-game runs in college football history, which I think is not true. As good as they've played. I don't know how you could say that when the only good team you've played during that time is USC. I just, I would say, well, last year, Ward Manuel was a selection committee chair, and he made it very clear publicly before conference championship weekend, if you are not playing this weekend, you cannot jump someone that's in front of you.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened this week to get Notre Dame out. Like, and I understand Pete saying, we can't make adjustments to a data set if we don't have that data set. Like, it's a moving target in real time. 1,000% agree. But if you're going to go off precedent, you could at least, publicly say this is what they did last year, and they went against it this year.
Yeah, no, I'm completely with you on that one. It's the sort of ambiguity and like cloak and dagger nature of how the committee operates. For all the come down and do the mock selection committee, like, give me a break with that. Like, it's a joke. So I can appreciate Notre Dame's animosity towards the CFP moving forward. But it just doesn't really solve anything. I mean, that's the issue. And I get that's, you referenced sort of the memorandum of understanding about, being ranked 12th and automatically included. That is incredibly naive on the part of Notre Dame to think that is going to matter at all when you're right on the cut line again. Right. If you're 10-2, like I think in some ways Bevacqua needed to get there. Like, look, we just have to go 11-1. That's it. That's the whole thing. When it was a 14 playoff, we had to go 12-0. Now we got to go 11-1. That's it.
This is neither here nor there, but I was told this week, like, Brian Kelly was taking a lot of issues with Jack Swarbrick with the ACC schedule, and he was here because it was like, they're so bad, I have to go undefeated to get in the playoff. Like, that's hard. I don't care who you're playing. Go undefeated is hard. And as we saw this year, 10-2 almost got them in. It did not. But next year's schedule's,
you got to go 11-1 next year.
Got to go 11-1.
Much
Miami
worse
will probably be good again, and that'd be a big game no matter what. USC, we'll see. I mean, well, if they play USC, we'll see. Also, I wish he was asked about that today, just because there's so no contract.
Did not even.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
I notepad.
We getting ready to put our legal thinking caps on about what's going to happen. It's like, hey, ask me anything about whatever. I want to just talk about life. I just think this fan base, this roster, everyone affiliated with Notre Dame in some way, shape, or form is in the grieving stage. Not to be over dramatic about it, but they just did have the rug pulled out from under them. I think there's something they could have just come out today, I think, and done a whole thing of like, wasn't Jeremiyah Love awesome? Like, and he's going to New York. That's awesome. Like, I just think there needed to be more than just the same of what we've heard the last 48 hours.
Yeah. I mean, this is, and like, we're both in this business, so we get it. Like, this is an ongoing, like, this is not a 2-day story. It's not a 2-week story. It's probably not a 2-month story. It's a 2-year story.
Yep.
And like Swarbrick ran into this, like when you have stories like this, it just sucks up all of the oxygen. And that's unfortunately the world that we're going to be living in for quite a while.
But I just think like I need to know what their plan is. Like, and again,
I don't know if they have one.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm in Vegas right now because College Football Hall of Fame dinner is tonight. I imagine there will be a lot of Notre Dame people here because Terry Hanratty is getting inducted.
Mhm.
But you know, a lot of ADs, agents, coaches are here. And like, not that Notre Dame needs to worry about what other people think, but every single person I've talked to is just like, so we get that they're upset, but like, what's their plan? Like, what are they? They're just going to pout? Like, what? Like, if you're going to take action, you better have a plan.
Yeah.
Big Ten's not going to take him as a partial member, nor do I think the SEC will.
No, I don't know. I think that's, I wonder at the end of this if Notre Dame will end up looking like they had more leverage than we all thought or almost no leverage. And I don't really know. I don't
either,
know
yeah.
the answer to that one.
I mean,
I think that's a big part of the story moving forward because my hunch is that they have a lot, but then you kind of sit back and be like, well, wait a minute, how are they going to exercise it? I don't know the answer to that.
And like Dan Wolken wrote this on Yahoo about like pretty much anything involving Notre Dame has like a political tinge to it, where it's like going to be a referendum on join a conference or not.
Oh God.
But like it is true. Like they're not going to get the benefit of the doubt. That is the independent tax. Like you got to go 11-1, like you did last year, and leave no doubt about it. And I still think that is a price worth paying to keep Notre Dame
100%.
Like I would not, short of any like tangible developments with the ACC, not just we're mad at you. I stand by what I wrote the minute they got left out Sunday, which is like this should not be a referendum on anything about the way Notre Dame goes about his business. Maybe they could schedule harder, but in my opinion, like they almost got in with a really crappy schedule this year, and the harm is not that they got left out so much as they were on the cut line, or excuse me, safely in for 5 straight weeks publicly. Now, want to get rid of the weekly shows? I think I don't know anyone outside of ESPN executives. I don't know anyone who would be against that idea. Yeah,
I'm with you on that part. Some quick business to take care of before we get in a couple questions before we wrap up. Our friends at Roback.com, RHOBACK.com for all your needs for quarter zips, polos, officially licensed Notre Dame apparel, joggers, shorts, tees. Go to Roback.com, use promo code IRISH for 20% off your first order.
Thanks to our friends at Obvious Shirts, OBVIOUSSHIRTS.com. Great pod merchandise, t-shirts, quarter zips, hoodies, crew necks. Great Christmas gift. Holidays are right around the corner. Thanks to our friends at Obvious Shirts. We'd like to also thank our friends at DraftKings. Playoff hopes, Heisman statements, everything is on the line. A single loss or bad performance can end it all, and no one gets you closer to the college football action than DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook for live betting. New customers, this one's for you. Bet just $5. If your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code INDEPENDENT. That's code INDEPENDENT to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. Pass-through of per wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. A lot of questions, most of which are like not regurgitations because they were submitted before, but similar to what we were.
Our listeners have a lot of questions. For first one, how dare you?
How dare you? All right, Bill Foos. Post presser today. What do you think the odds are of Notre Dame announcing the end of the ACC deal by the start of next season?
I say low, but not nothing.
Yeah, I just here. There's another one. Irish Football Pod. What pod are you talking about, buddy? Will ND leave the ACC agreement? Seems complex, but not impossible. So I wrote this today. They had their general counsel go over the agreement a few years ago out of like due diligence, just when all the realignment chairs were moving. and they just wanted to essentially know what their options would be. And their takeaway was like, well, we don't have to worry about the grant of rights like these other schools do because they don't own our football grant of rights. They only own our other sports grant of rights, which I know that counts for 24 sports that Notre Dame's in the ACC right now. With all due respect to those 24 sports, I'm not sure they make up even 10% combined of the Notre Dame media value. It's all football. And so Notre Dame would not be, they did not find that to be prohibitive. They found the exit fee to be prohibitive. That has since changed because this all happened before Clemson and Florida State tried to sue their way out of the ACC and reach a compromise. So I don't think it would be prohibitive. I just don't like Clemson and Florida State did it to raise a stink. And in some ways they won because they got the flexibility they need to get out of there in 5 years if someone wants them. I wouldn't do it just to raise a stink if I'm Notre Dame. I think that's kind of unbecoming of them and just kind of short-sighted. And you better have a plan. Like, you better know through back channels that Greg Sankey or Tony Petitti has said, you've got a partial home here. I'm sure the Big 12 would take them, but I think you're trading one set of problems for another, and it wouldn't make sense for the other sports. Now, someone suggested to me, and I'm not saying this is the worst idea in the world, like, you just do what you did with the Big East, and then you start from scratch scheduling again?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah. That would be the option that if I could choose a door, that would be the door that I would choose for Notre Dame. And I had to refamiliarize myself with like who's actually in the Big East because I haven't paid attention. And I was like, this is actually a better basketball conference than the ACC in some ways.
Yes, usually.
And like baseball, like your other revenue sports that are limited by the fact that there's snow on the ground for 6 months out of the year. That's how it is everywhere else too. So I think a move to the Big East, to get back together with UConn and a handful, Villanova, DePaul, Marquette, all that. I think that would be incredibly well received. The problem is football scheduling to me. And I realize that Notre Dame likes to say, we have so many teams that want to do a home and home with us. Okay, cool.
Timing's everything.
Are you going to play all the games between September 1st and September 17th?
Right.
Because there aren't a lot of schools that want to do the home and homes in October and November. And I realize they got Auburn to agree to that, which is still a bit shocking to me. But that's not enough. You can still do Navy, Stanford. I'm not sure what else you grab if you start playing Army regularly. But at the same time, like, would a all independent schedule, assuming USC and Navy and Stanford are still part of it, would that be any worse than what they're playing next year? I doubt it.
No. I mean, I don't know how to make all this work, but like Michigan and USC, like two rivals on the field, but schools we've had long-standing relationships with. You're both very upset at the Big Ten right now. Let's work on something. Yes. And I don't know what that something is, but
I think you could just spitballing here. Maybe it's a USC Michigan rotational series.
Yes,
where like, hey, we're just going to do a series of home and homes. It's every other year with both of you guys in a rotating fashion. Can we give a little here, get a little there? I don't know, but I think the best case scenario for Notre Dame is something like that. It would be a very heavy lift for football scheduling. I don't think it would be an impossible one, but they would, it's like you look at where scheduling is going down the road and you see Alabama and Texas and, still Florida, Clemson coming on. Like, I feel like they have some good stuff coming away, but they're really stuck in a bad spot right now. Whereas like, Purdue, Arkansas, Michigan State is a mess.
Wisconsin.
Stanford's terrible. Wisconsin is a disaster. I don't really know. I mean, that is unfortunately, I think, just part of the deal of being independent or partially independent.
Wisconsin, I mean, to be fair, that game was supposed to be played in 2020 when Wisconsin was still Wisconsin.
Yeah. Yeah, Wisconsin was pretty good when they played at Soldier Field, although I think they might have fired Paul Chryst like 2 weeks later.
That was a year later. But in 2019, So the year before 2020, when they would have played Notre Dame the first time, they were in the Big Ten. They were in the Rose Bowl. Like they were a good program. Still trying to get back to that. But yeah, I just think you got to think outside the box as much as possible, which is not easy to do. But I just think there's so many moving parts to all of this. And I would pounce on the vulnerability of Michigan right now as far as their relation to their current conference. And quite frankly, I threw USC in there because USC is a Notre Dame rival and they're upset at the Big Ten too. But I think Michigan's the only other school that could possibly do what Notre Dame does as far as going full out independent. And I would just brainstorm, see if there's a path forward to do something unique and different. There might not be, but as long as we're thinking out loud here, I think those are worthy ideas. The other part, I'm sure you saw this. Notre Dame men's basketball beats Missouri. Great game last week. And Dennis Gates, Missouri's head coach, post game in the press conference, kind of went off about like, guys, like I came here to Florida State years ago and this place was rocking. What's going on? Like, get behind Micah Shrewsbury. He's building a good program, yada, yada, yada. And I don't think there's short of the Big Ten, I don't think there's a good answer or solution for like reinvigorating interest around non-football sports at Notre Dame among the public. But I do think whether it's the ACC, whether it's the Big East, again, pretty much anywhere outside of the Big Ten, something is lost in the sense of like, well, you're never going to have traveling Wake Forest fans come for a basketball game. Purdue would, Michigan State would,
Louisville does.
That's
famously.
There's something lost in that, and I think that's a sacrifice you just ultimately make because football is king, and that's what pays the bills. But seeing Dennis Gates say that, it got me wondering a little bit about like just how difficult it is being a coach at Notre Dame for the full-fledged ACC sports, because the travel is brutal for like outside of basketball. The travel is brutal, and that is reality for student athletes. And,
no, I mean the travel is brutal inside of basketball. Yeah, and it's just like what is going to stir your emotions as a Notre Dame basketball fan, assuming you are one, like Virginia Tech, Cal, SMU, Georgia Tech, Florida State, or would you rather see Georgetown, DePaul, Xavier, Butler, Villanova, UConn, Seton Hall, St. John's, Providence, Creighton, and Marquette? Like, that's not even close.
Yeah.
Not even close.
And, SMU, when they joined the ACC, obviously it was driven by football, but the rub, if you want to call it that, David Miller, their board man who funded this thing with $100 million, is a former basketball player. And for him, it was less about SMU having a seat at the table than it was, I will now get to tell all my friends I have Duke and North Carolina playing basketball every year in my gym. Like, that is a thrill for me. And honestly, and I'm not as close to the program as I used to be, the Notre Dame men's basketball program, but like it felt, even during the peak Bray years, it was like, yep, everyone's going to come out for this Duke and North Carolina game. They're not going to come out as much for Florida State and Clemson. John Ramos, press conference was fluff, explains the mentality over there. No more Mr. Nice Guy. I mean, the fans some of whom were pretty influential, had a very similar reaction texting me as this was all going on. I wouldn't necessarily agree with all that, but I do think that captures a tenor of the fan base right now. And I do think during this time of grief, and I use, again, quotation marks, air quotes with that, I do think there needed to be something out there today publicly to get everyone excited again. I understand Pete saying like, eventually we need to turn the page, and I'd be lying to you if I say I'm not over it. I get all that from a human standpoint, but I do think in that role, in that chair, when you get behind that microphone, something should have been put out there a little bit more positive, just for the fan base.
I'm with you. I think it probably needed to throw a little bit more red meat into the crowd than you did.
D. Domer, do you guys have a sense of how Marcus views Pete B's public handling of this and the decision to sit out in the bowl game? Skipping the bowl and playing victim as anti-Freeman. I agree with you based on what he said, but I also agree with what Pete said, which is like he's a sore loser. And I know a lot of these guys are, and in some ways that's a compliment, in some ways it's not. But
and to be clear, when I say sore loser, I mean like a raging loser, not like he's not like pouting in the corner.
Bad loser. But
yeah,
I also, I don't know. I mean, I think you'd like to see the head football coach who's always been so good at inspiring you through good and bad times, who could get up there and convince you after Northern Illinois that things are going to be okay. I think it's important for that position at a school like Notre Dame with this fan base to project positivity and spin it forward. And I have no doubt eventually he'll do that behind the scenes. But yeah, I would have liked to see more. Again, I come back to like 12 guaranteed opportunities, 12 guaranteed opportunities. He says that all the time. And to think that like you voluntarily gave up a 13th opportunity is just hard for me to wrap my head around. I understand it. I don't agree with it. And I just, I don't think that he's playing the victim, but I think he's opened himself to that criticism from others with how this is being handled right now. And by the way, I'm not saying, but you're going to hear his name for every NFL firing that happens between now and the end of the NFL season publicly.
Yeah. If we heard his name for every college opening, we're going to hear his name for every NFL opening.
And I'm not saying he's leaving for the NFL, though I think eventually when he does decide to leave, it will be for the NFL. I just think you're going to go from not seeing or hearing this guy from signing day till when? And I just think that information void with all that smoke, however real or fake it is out there, just further fuels the anxiety among the public.
I don't know if I agree with that. Because we didn't hear anything from him after the national championship game last year. I think it's just like
this. At that point, everything was filled.
I don't know if the Bears was filled. The Bears was definitely not filled on the day of the national championship.
But he signed He also signed an extension publicly, which he didn't do this year.
But that will be happening, I would say, by the end of the year, maybe. I don't know. I'm just sort of spitballing on that one. I'm not concerned about it. I think having anxiety over it is a waste of time if you're a Notre Dame fan, because Marcus Freeman will be the head coach at Notre Dame next year.
I don't think it's a waste of time just because, and again, I'm not saying he's going because I don't think he is, but I don't know. You just had the rug pulled out from under you. Emotionally, you're all very vulnerable right now, is common with sports fans. We don't have to be rational. I just think it would calm the nerves a little bit.
So I agree with you on that. I think that if you put Marcus Freeman in front of a podium next week, that would be a smart thing to do if you're Notre Dame.
Right. And like you said, he didn't speak after a national title game, but like there's a post-game press conference. There was no post-game, postseason press conference because there is no game this year too. So like, again, I don't know. I mean,
we are 48 hours away from like D-Day here. So I feel like we can give them a little bit more time to process that in terms of trotting him out there. But
also, like, again,
something that they should do. I'm with you on that.
Every program's different, but like Clark Lee getting right up there saying, I'm not going to give up 23 extra days with my guys. And we dug our own grave by losing 2 football games this year. We're not a victim.
But it's like that's a bowl press conference. Yeah. Notre Dame didn't have a bowl press conference for obvious reasons.
Well, Mike Vite or Viti, apologies. Why would he call a press Pete? He means Pete Bevacqua. Call a press conference to say the same things he's been saying all week. My gut says he had something to announce, but something happened last minute, i.e. Freeman extension. Don't agree with that last part, but I similar questions.
So this was phrased to me as like, this is the same press conference that Pete did last year about this time. Kind of a year end. We could talk about anything. The problem with that this year is that there was only one thing to talk about. Last year it was the extension, hosting a home playoff game, what's going on with some other sports, revenue sharing type stuff, NIL, blah, blah, blah. So I think that Notre Dame saw this as, hey, this is the year-end wrap-up press conference. We're going to do this every year about this time. That's great. However, there was only one thing to talk about this time.
Right. And it was a day's notice. So it's like,
yeah, I think it's it's the equivalent of, I think, when players tweet out cryptic things on Instagram or Twitter, and you're like, actually, that was just like a lyric from a song that they like. This press conference was going to happen even if Notre Dame made the playoff.
That's what I'm saying. Like those are teenagers on social media. These are professionals whose jobs are image and communication. And again, when he's had just one, it's not like everyone has a rapport with, whoever you cover, like, like, all right, at this day, this guy's going to speak, or, at the end of every year, this guy will do this on or off the record with us. There's nothing to fall back on with Pete Bevacqua because he's so new there that it's like, oh, wait, he has a press conference tomorrow. What could that possibly be about? It didn't say like end of year media availability, which a lot of these do say when they announce them.
Yeah.
We got to get going here in a couple of minutes. Most of the questions are, again, kind of reiterating some of the stuff that was asked earlier and that we were talking about. What's everyone supposed to do with their free time now? Like, again, I'm not saying this is everything, but like a lot of families plan their Christmas vacation around wherever their college is going to a bowl game.
Yeah, I know. I often plan my holidays around when Notre Dame is going to a bowl game. Instead, I'm going to just north of Bucerias, Mexico for a week.
Just scout out future USC Notre Dame sites
in December. Yeah. If we can get, I'm not sure what the stadium situation is around Puerto Vallarta, but I'll report back after I return in the new year on that.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll be here in Vegas the rest of the week. Not looking for some domers. I'm sure there are plenty here with handwriting.
Can you find any home run and pizza in Vegas, or do they not sell it out there?
They have everything in Vegas. They got to have it out here, don't they? I don't know. So I'll look for that, and we'll see. It'll be interesting times around Notre Dame, like unusually quiet. Which again, quiet as a trained reporter to be skeptical of everything always makes me a little nervous. Fan base obviously is not a great spot right now, understandably so, but we will be back soonish. Let's get some guests. I think you guys are tired of just hearing the two of us talk and staring at our beautiful bald heads all day.
Yeah, if only there was another Pete who was bald who did a bunch of podcasts. But I can't get everybody.
This press conference could have been a podcast. This Zoom could have been an email.
Excellent. All right. Well, on that note, we'll wrap up this episode of The Independent. If there's more news that breaks or more discourse that is injected into our bloodstreams, we'll come back. But until then, he's Matt in Vegas. I'm Pete in South Bend, and you've been listening to the latest episode of The Independent.